We continue to track the Byju story. After delaying January's salaries, founder Byju Raveendran has now come on record to state that the salaries have been credited. In fact, he also stated that he has moved mountains to ensure that the employees get their January dues despite having or suffering severe liquidity crisis at Byju's, a continuing crisis that Byju's has been faced with for over months and weeks now. Kartik, this is a saga that continues to unfold every month on month. It appears that after Byju's having letting go of at least 3,000 to 3,500 people in the course of last 1 year, is still not able to pay up salaries for the remainder of their employees. About 50 crore rupees that Byju's have to shell out every month to pay their employees. It's getting it difficult for them to manage that money.
Yeah, but I mean, it's great for Byju Raveendran to come out and write these heroic letters to employees and make these very smart statements, in gatherings when he's interacting with employees. But the problem is, somebody's got to tell him that he's the maker of these problems and he's not the one who's at the receiving end. In fact, he's the fountainhead of all these problems actually springing up for the company. And at some point, founders have to take responsibility. And that is the only responsibility that he's taking as the founder and CEO. I understand he has himself faced troubled times over the last 1 year where he had to put his own property on mortgage. I think 2 of his houses in Bangalore were put up on the block, and he raised some money from those mortgages to pay off salaries in the month of November or December, if I'm not mistaken. And thereafter, the crisis continues in the month of Jan. Moving mountain sounds great, but I mean, there's a mountain of troubles which is already standing very, very tall in front of the entire company, not just Byju Raveendran and his wife Divya Gokulnath and brother Riju Raveendran, who all should ideally step down from the board, and Byju Raveendran should resign as CEO because of the mess that he's created for the organization. So, every time he comes up with these, quick, smart comments on through the letters that he writes or through the addresses that he makes to his employees, I think at some point somebody's got to stand up to him and tell him, and I think the board is trying to do that.
And investors,
yeah, but what happened to that EGM? Because that EGM has been pending since July last year. July, the board had requested for an EGM. It was dismissed. There was no EGM. December again, an EGM was requested. Nothing happened. Jan again, some of the investors who were holding board seats earlier, including Process, including Chang, Zuckerberg Investments, including Sequoia, which is now called Peak 15 Ventures, they are no longer sitting on the board, but they still have their investments. Even those investments may have been written down on their own books, but the point is these are still investors who had parked solid money into the company's coffers. And Byju Raveendran has not done justice as founder, as CEO of the edtech firm, of the entire parent company Think and Learn, to give those investors any return. If anything, a negative return as deep down as 99% slashing down of values is humongous for investors.
Absolutely.
So at one point, there are investors who are not likely to derive any value out of their investments which they have parked at Byju's. Employees don't know what their future looks like because their salaries keep getting delayed. There are rounds and rounds of layoffs. The US unit of Byju's has already last week filed for bankruptcy, a Chapter 11 bankruptcy in Delaware, and there's a $1.2 billion debt that is as huge a mountain as you come across ever. There's a $1.2 billion debt which Byju's has no way of servicing. Now, there is an NCLT hearing in Bengaluru on the 7th of February where it seems that the creditors of Byju's are going to drag Byju Raveendran and the company to some sort of bankruptcy insolvency proceedings. And it's a matter of time before it gets admitted, because we know for a fact the company does not have money. Their financial results for FY22, which in any case came about 22 months too late, but FY23 results are yet to see light of the day. We had auditors resigning, you had Deloitte walking away, you had BDO coming in. But despite all of that, you don't still see the FY23 results, which were a delayed result. Reporting was to have happened in December. That has not happened. The FY22 results show that losses at a consolidated group level are as high as 8,500 crore rupees against a revenue of about 5,000 crore rupees. I mean, what kind of a business is being run here where your losses are almost 70-80% higher than the total revenue that you've driven? And FY22, remember Shweta, we keep saying this, was still the year between 1st April 2021, when we were in the thick of the pandemic, to 31st March 2022, when the pandemic had started to ebb out. So there would have been far more number of users of BYJU'S services. There would have been far more number of students paying those fees for the courses
Online
that they were doing on BYJU'S platforms. But FY23 is going to be a different ballgame altogether.
Could be a washout here for
Absolutely.
BYJU'S, we never know. But, you know, come to think of it, the valuation has tanked over 90%, and that is by the way of a rights issue.
99% now with
over
the rights issue.
With the rights issue, which is valuing, where the company is valuing itself to the tune of about $225 million from $22 billion at the peak of its valuation. Now, some money is likely to come in through that route.
I don't know which investor would want to participate in the rights issue, to be honest, because even if you want to increase your stake, you're increasing your stake on a company which is now valued at just
dwindling.
1% of what it was once valued. Do you really want to increase your stake in that company?
And is there any business sense and business value in the company?
Until the board changes, until the family is kicked out of the board, and until the founder CEO resigns from day-to-day operations, I think there is no merit in anybody making any investment via a rights issue or via any other fresh infusion of capital into BYJU'S.
All right, very strong words coming in from Kartik, unlike Kartik, but I think that is the story, that is what it demands. BYJU'S that continues to be in the news, employees that have no semblance of normalcy for a while now, and Byju Raveendran, letters on letters in which he continues to talk about how he's a warrior, battling challenges on all fronts, at the same time not resigning from the board despite clarion calls to do so for a while now.